Hello and welcome back to the Cronecast with the Rising Moon. This is the last public Spirit Guide Daily. Moving forward, they're going to a Patreon. The date today is January 15th, 2024. If you look in the description box down below, there will be a link to my Patreon and potentially a YouTube membership if I can ever figure that part out. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. This is the Guardian Angels Tarot. I'm going to be bringing us a predictive spread. The Endura Fortune cards are as well. And then the Soul Helper will be as well. And if I feel kind of called to it, I might use a couple more Oracle cards just as like a, I don't know, as a special occasion thing. January 15th is a date that I wanted to reclaim for something positive because it had kind of a negative connotation for me. It had been my wedding anniversary. And so I wanted to do something on January 15th that would be a positive new start in my life. So that's why we're doing it this way, guys. Let's get going. What is the Spirit Guide Daily? These are daily messages that will reach you when they're meant to. They usually manifest within about 72 hours, but sometimes it's just a message you need to hear. So let's get going. What's the energy for the collective today? I saw you. We have the moon in the upright, which is intuition, illusion, revelation, and it came out with the 5 of Wands in the upright, which this one says conflicts, annoyance, competition. Honest to goodness, I find that a card of movement and change. And when I get it with competition, it usually means that like you can have a meeting with someone who is not necessarily a competitor, but somebody that you're collaborating with. Because in most professional settings, we have somebody who's like, they're a good foil for us. They're not an enemy, but they kind of bring out the best in us. Like Jacob and I do that on the podcast all the time, is that we're not always in agreement on things. Sometimes we're coming at things from a different angle. And that's the kind of competitive challenge that you can sometimes face, is needing to be able to back up your gut sense with some logic and some reason behind it with another person. And so that's one of the things that this particular energy is kind of talking about, is that there is something that you have a gut sense about, but you may find yourself struggling for a way to word it in a this bantering capacity with somebody who's like, I don't want to say fencing with you, that's far too negative, but somebody who wants you to explain something and you have to search for the way to do it because they kind of don't get it the first time. And that comes out with the 2 of Cups in reverse, which is partnership, commitment, reconciliation in reverse. So this is a little bit funny because, of course, the 2 of Cups in reverse can be a relationship that has left your life or a relationship that is not serving you. It can also be in reverse like that, an inbound relationship. So we're going to take one more card on this, which is the 3 of Pentacles in reverse, which is a card of personal power, of being like your own ruler, being your own leader. The 3 of Pentacles in the upright is this good like earthly energy where you're collaborating with people, usually in a business capacity, but always in a practical manner. It can be creative, but it's usually work related. When you get the 3 of Pentacles in reverse, for instance, this is one of the cards that might tell me someone's being promoted to management, where they're in charge of another person. But this is a card of essentially making strong personal choices around relationships, around communication as well. This particular five of Wands, 5 of Fire, does not strike me as being anything other than the energy of change. And again, for some people, it's going to be this weird call to justify an opinion or a long-held belief with logic as well as that emotional resonance that comes with intuition. Let's get going here. 1 and 2 and 3. What have we got from the Soul Helper card? Here we go. I have your deepest desires constrain you. Let them go and clear your mind. I have to admit, that can be a codependency card. So listen, is there anything wrong with wanting things? There's nothing wrong with wanting things. It is okay to have aspirations about what your future will contain, both in a professional capacity, a material capacity, a relationship capacity. The problem becomes when we want things that aren't good for us. And sometimes we want the people that aren't good for us, and sometimes we want situations that aren't good for us either. And so whenever you want something, you think this is the goal that I'm going towards, stop and ask yourself why. And maybe you're the person who needs to justify some things logically as well. Sometimes we have to, in the head and the heart battle, separate the head from the heart and have the head talk to the heart for a while, because the heart is not the most reasonable part of us. I always use myself as an example because that way nobody else gets in trouble. Historically, I had chosen partners or been attracted to people who had very similar personalities to both of my incredibly difficult parents as I was trying to resolve some issues. And like with my upbringing that I've referred to, that was not really an upbringing. And that's very common. We literally all do it as we try and resolve issues. We will be attracted to people who contain the missing pieces of us from our formative experience. Now, as that changed, I began to realize that I was not attracted to the same sort of person any longer. And it was a strange thing because I would have that weird like energetic pull, but then like kind of talk to myself about like, well, that person's not right for you. What are you even thinking? Yeah, sure, they seem interested, but so what? That does not convey a worth. And that's one of the things that we have to learn on a journey to let go of any codependency, is that sometimes we will associate somebody wanting us with conveying worth to us. And it's just something to be a little bit aware of. So we have multiple things going on here. You're going to be called upon to justify something that you feel at a very gut level, but you're going to have to reason through when you're talking to somebody. It is going to be about something having to do with your personal power. It is potentially, for some people, you're going to have to deal with that tendency to be attracted to people who... It's like they're like our syllabus, they contain our lesson plan or something, is that you have to recognize when you're repeating a pattern that may not be good for you, is all I'm trying to say. Awaken the magic of your creativity, immerse yourself in the world of feelings. That is something that we were just talking about, is understanding your feelings through a logical lens as well. And does that take all the magic and the romance of life? No, not at all. It just keeps you safe. Keeps you safe, keep you going towards healthy things, which is what the point of a journey is to become the best version of yourself that you can be, to go towards your life's purpose, which whenever you hear purpose, please don't confuse it with the word profession. Too many people do. I've seen people fulfilling a purpose that has nothing to do with making money, and they have a good living besides. Purpose is the thing that you came to contribute to the greater world. And for some people, it will be their profession. And for some people, it will be, things like starting a nonprofit or participating in a food bank. Or in some instances, like people who've got TikTok accounts who are doing outreach on things like, there's a girl I'd love to interview who's called the Food Pantry Girl, who just kind of normalizes the fact that people sometimes need help. And she talks about recipes that she's figured out from these kind of readily available in most food banks and food pantries. And she gives suggestions on what people can donate, as for instance, can openers, which I never even thought about that. And that's her purpose. That's her purpose, is that she's bringing awareness, that she's humanizing people who are in need, which we desperately need in this world. We have a tendency to judge people very harshly for needing help, not realizing that most of us are just a couple of steps away from needing help in this world. And it would help us solve our problems if we stopped blaming people for their struggles, So we have the Griffin, honor and good luck as well. So that was just a little bit of, I don't want to say a lecture, but I will say like a talk about how purpose and profession can diverge. She's very much in a purposeful energy there, and you can have multiple life's purposes, guys, in case you didn't know that part. Like you can be in a purposeful energy for like a 10-year period, and then that chapter is meant to close, and then you move on. We are going to keep going on this. And by the way, it has been a delight to be shooting these, and when I upload them, not marking them for ads and things, because there won't be any ads in the Patreon or the membership level. Here we go. Let's get going. I have the key. Wow, 3 things fell out, so we're going to take them all. Key, cracker, and then star. Key, new beginnings, directions, and adventures await those ready to let go of the past. With cracker, positive energy surrounds you, love, joy, and good fortune awaits. Star, hard times are over. Look forward to an abundance of happiness, enthusiasm, and positivity. So I'm glad I went for that extra draw. This is such a positive energy going forward. For those of you who are not going to be able to join the Patreon, that's cool. Don't worry about that. I'll still be putting up some pick-a-cards. Whenever anybody has a reading with me, I provide them with as many free resources as I can. I'm not cutting people off. I just have to make a living as well. Whenever you're in an energy where you're trying to heal, one of the best things that you can do is question your choices in the past, because it will help you release that energy. If you understand yourself, you have insight into how your shadow side sometimes influences you. And this is an incredibly positive draw. And for those of you who are leaving me here, remember, this is the energy that you're dwelling in. Please keep checking back. There will be pick of cards. To keep going on a path of discovering your personal power, to keep going on a path of finding your purpose. Because the world, if you're a very sensitive person, which everybody in my collective is, that is one of the things that goes into the empath narcissist paradigm that goes along with codependency, is that very sensitive people end up in these dynamics that potentially aren't super good for them. And if you're a very sensitive person, one of the things that you can do is like kind of logically break down your feelings to understand them, so that it's not as painful as you go forward. Is understanding that being extra sensitive gives you great gifts. It gives you good intuition. It gives you the ability to manifest at a level that is, because you have a lot of command over big energies. And logically breaking things down is the thing that gives you power over your inner world. Your inner world is something that you need to understand, to work in conjunction with. I will be doing a podcast about living with our inner dichotomy that will explain that at length. But one of the ways to start doing that is to question yourself about not what you are feeling, but why you are feeling it. And it's not to shame yourself out of your feelings. It's because when you understand why you're feeling it, and always keep going backwards. If it's a situation and you're like, well, am I being disproportionate here at all? Am I bringing more to this table than should be here? Then the answer's in the past. And understanding how you were wounded or felt rejected or felt excluded or felt shamed for the feelings that you had of not being loved or not being worthwhile. And it is part of the reason that people with that codependent energy have a tendency to pick partners that will both repeat those patterns of often emotional neglect or bullying, quite frankly, is because they're looking for a different outcome from the same external source of energy. And the recipe, the remedy, is within questioning yourself about why you're making the choices that you're making. And once you do that, you break it down pretty easily and you turn in a new direction. And everything about those fortune cards said that, if you keep going towards letting go of the past, you will have new beginnings. So that was the Spirit Guide Daily for today. I hope you're able to join my Patreon or my membership if I can figure it out, because clearly I'm not shooting this on the 15th. And please keep looking for those pick cards. Don't forget, I have a podcast, Logical Magic, Examining Esoterica, and I very much look forward to going forward and helping people as they have healed move into their purposeful energy so that they can find what their calling is. And sometimes it's a new calling and sometimes it's the first calling, but it always makes life flow better when you feel a resonant purpose within your life. Take care. Be well.